Um, in case we haven't been through it enough recently in our congregation, I'll give you a little bit of refresher on that. Talk a little bit about the MSP and then, time for questions and comments. So that's the plan. So what is the call process? The first step, which we've already completed, is putting together the call committee. And some of the call committee members are here today. Thank you for being here. I know they have their first meeting scheduled for this week, for Wednesday night. They're meeting with Krista Lynn from the Bishop's office, so they are excited about getting going on their work. The first thing for the call committee to do is to meet with the representative from the Bishop's office. And just a reminder that part of the call process absolutely requires confidentiality. For anybody who has served on a call process, you know that. But it's a reminder for the congregation that we aren't necessarily going to hear the details of what they're doing because of the need for confidentiality. But they will be providing updates as they are able. The other big question about a call process is how long is it going to take? And the question is, it always takes longer than we think it's going to and that we want it to. So those are the two things that I know about how long it's going to take. It just, because of trying to get people together for meetings, trying to schedule interviews when they get to that point. And it just ends up being, as I said, a much longer process than we wanted. However, our goal is to have a new associate pastor or deacon in place by this fall. And the good news to go along with that is that Deacon Jennifer has agreed to stay with us until then. So that'll be nice consistency for us, when we've had so many changes over the last few years. I think what we all are required as congregational members is to make sure that we pray for the call committee and make sure that we have patience with the process. And just let the Holy Spirit do her work. So now I want to talk about the MSP. We do have paper copies available if you would like to pick one up. It was emailed out. I understand some people aren't getting their emails, but it was emailed out this week. So I know some of you have had a chance to look at it ahead of time. I wanted to talk a little bit about the process. So because we have so recently had a call committee, just a year ago, when we went through the call Pastor Sarah, our ministry site program, our MSP, did not require extensive rewriting because who Grace is, which is what the MSP is all about, has not substantially changed in the last year. So the changes that were made, some of it was verbiage, just about changing from looking for a lead pastor to looking for an associate pastor. And then along with that is some of the changes in the ministry tasks. What are the priorities that we're looking for in a pastor? Because some of those are aligned with both what the congregation needs, but also looking at Pastor Sarah's strengths and what would be best to complement her ministry. So that's kind of where we're at on that. We did add a section in the trends part that talked about the multiple changes we've had in pastoral leadership in the last 3.5 years. And part of that was we decided that has had a relatively deep impact on the congregation. I think the instability that we've had, and Pastor Sarah particularly coming in recently with us, said that she thinks that's important for an incoming pastor to be aware of. So if you look at that section, there is a paragraph about that we wanted to make sure was in there. I can go through parts of this if you want me to. Otherwise, if you have questions about a particular area you'd like to ask questions about or have a comment about, I'd be happy to do that. Karen.
read through it and I wondered why Brittany Marcus was named one. But
Why Brittany was in there?
I know she's off to school and I didn't know if she's still a member of the congregation. The role
That particular, that's in the reference section, and I think the category was someone who knows you well.
someone else. Yeah.
And so Brittany's name came up in the discussion, and we thought, well, he knows it well. And the idea is that it's not a current member, you know, so somebody from outside who knows it. Yeah. And Brittany actually joined us, you know, on Zoom for the Ash Wednesday service.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun to see her. She still cares about it. Yeah, Jim.
This may be in the political arena of the question, but how much weight is given to Pastor Sarah in making a choice? Because she's gonna have to work with this individual.
That's a really good question, Jim. Pastor Sarah, I mean, there isn't a specific, you know, guideline, like she doesn't get to, you know, she doesn't have 50% of the.
Yeah.
But she will be involved with the call committee.
I'm sure, yeah.
So she'll be involved in, you know, the vetting of the candidates and the interview process, because you're right, that's a high priority.
Mhm.
You know, we need to have a good cohesive team. Other questions or comments about the ministry site profile or the call process?
Are we looking for a ordained minister, or are we thinking maybe we could do a deacon? We open on that, or?
So in the MSP, we use the terminology pastor or deacon. And part of that was to be open to it. Okay, there's a reason to seek a pastor rather than a deacon. One of the things is, as we witnessed this morning, deacons are not allowed to oversee the communion part of the worship service. So, which is a rule of the ELCA, there's nothing we can do about it, it has nothing to do with how good our deacon is. But that's just one of the limitations on that particular role. So I think we would be open to the right person who was a deacon, but I honestly think the preference would be a pastor, just so that it's easier.
That's surprising. Is there any movement on that piece from the ELCA standpoint? Or that?
I don't know if there's movement on that by the ELCA. I know that there's discussion.
Okay.
Pastors are ordained as word and sacrament.
Yeah.
Deacons are word and service.
Yeah,
Okay.
So that's because of the way they're ordained, that's including sacraments for pastors rather than deacons.
It's like the running versus the nurse practitioner kind of a thing. That's how I do it. The training slightly different, and then what they're allowed to do just because of that.
and I know that the process to become a deacon now is much more intensive than it was, say, 10 years ago. So I think the deacons are well qualified to do just about anything, you know, and you know, there is part of the Lutheran theology to a certain extent is we're all ministers. Yeah. You know, and I mean, we give communion to each other. And so, you know, there's a lot of discussion going on. The role of deacons and, you know, what they're called is. But that's the reason for that. Any other questions? One of the sections of the MSP that I wanted to look at, just to highlight it a little bit, is pages 9 and 10. The top 5 ministry tasks that we have, you know, highlighted for our associate pastor, the priorities under gifts of ministry. And these are, I mean, we have to fill this part out, so we have to pick. But it's, you know, it isn't necessarily the only thing we're looking for in our candidates. But the top 5 ministry tasks were evangelism, mission, pastoral care and visitation, recruit and equip leaders, youth and family ministry, and preaching and worship. Now, as far as I know, every MASP that's ever filled out includes preaching and worship, so that's kind of a given. But the rest of those are priorities, you know, just for the congregation as a whole, but again, looking at Pastor Sarah's gifts and what we would be looking for in an associate. And the same is true for that section under gifts for ministry. Again, everything that's listed on here is valuable to have in a pastor. So it's just a matter of sort of for candidates looking at our paperwork to say, oh, well, I'm good at that, you know, maybe not so good at that, but that's kind of the way that section works. Anybody have questions about
So
that?
these that are checked now changed from the ones that we had checked for Pastor Sarah?
Yes,
Okay,
these have been updated for this particular call. The other section is, the next section is mutual expectations. And, these also have been updated slightly, but the first section under mutual expectations talks about what our expectations are of our incoming pastor. Establish relationships with the lead pastor, staff, and leadership to help create a cohesive team. Share your passions and introduce us to your visions for ministry. Meet one-on-one or in small groups with Grace members, listening for hopes, passions, and fears. Invite us to try some new things with you. Develop a theology and strategy around congregational care. So those are what we expect of him or her. And then the next section is our role, what we are promising to them. We will welcome and support your leadership. We will be open to trying new things. We will work with you to come up with ways to get to know the Grace and Apple Valley community. We will welcome you into a culture that promotes health, rest, and wholeness so that our leaders can lead from a place of well-being. And we will give and receive forgiveness. So I wanted you all to sort of be aware of what we're promising. Any questions or comments about any of that? Any overall questions about the call process or what's going to happen or how long it's going to take, any of those?
I just thought about your last question. The, being open to trying new things. In one sense, everything now, post-COVID, and after our experience, is a new thing. When you look at, we have one service.
Yeah.
We used to have two services, but now we have an online presence. That's new. And just rebuilding, and we hear this from Pastor Sarah, reestablishing, rebuilding.
Mhm.
So it's all new.
Yeah, that's true. It is, and I think, I mean, one of the challenges certainly that we as a congregation have, that our leadership has, that our staff has, is bringing a congregation out of the time of the pandemic. Because, you know, the pandemic might be quote unquote over, although it's not over, but you know, certainly the worst of it is over, but the after effects in all of our lives, but certainly in our congregational life, are continuing. Oh, yeah. And I mean, I may be prejudiced because I was on the call committee, but I think Pastor Sarah is doing a wonderful job of introducing us to new things. With the idea that it's all a grand experiment. We try new things, we see what works for us, what becomes part of our ministry. So I think we've already taken an important step along those lines. Amy.
I don't usually ever ask questions, so I'm already out of my comfort zone here, but, so the 5 ministry tasks, a personal thing for me is the pastoral care and visitation. And then the gifts for ministry, but we have the 5 yeses, but the provide care and nurture is not checked. And I'm not thinking hard enough, because some of these yeses, to me, almost all the same. I mean, I don't know. I guess my question is, if we want pastoral, you know, but then that provides care and measures. Not a big deal to me, but I just noticed it.
Yep. I think that, I mean, part of that is because we selected as one of the top 5 ministry tasks. That, you know, that's where we place the importance. And then in the other list, focus on other things.
Okay.
But I think we're all aware of the fact that pastoral care is much needed. So. But thank you for commenting on that. So the church council is meeting Tuesday night this week, and we will be finalizing the MSP. And I don't think there'll be substantial changes. I think it's pretty much ready to go. We were kind of waiting until after today to see if anybody had any major concerns about what's in there, but I don't think I've heard anything yet that is too drastic. So we will. One of the things that needs to be filled in the on the MSP is the chairperson of the call committee. So this can't be finalized and submitted until the call committee meets Wednesday night. And I've already told Michael that the only thing I care about that the call committee can, you know, accomplish Wednesday night is selecting a chairperson. So that will be one of their first tasks. But Krista will lead you through that. Marge.
Yeah, I have one question. I know it used to be on call committees that parts or all of the call committee or select groups would go and actually visit candidates in their home congregation. Do they do that now, or do they do it via like Facebook or YouTube or Zoom or something instead?
The answer to that is yes. Yeah, yeah, on the call committee that I was just on, we did go hear the local candidates in person, but like Pastor Sarah, we listened to online because she was in Illinois. Yeah, yeah. I tried to convince Tippy that we could go visit his mother and hear her preach, but it didn't go.
Timing didn't work out. I watched a lot of YouTube though.
Yeah, you did. You know, that's an interesting point though, Marge, because the ministry site profile, I would guess 20 years ago was really an important tool for a new pastor considering a congregation. I think nowadays with so much information on churches' websites and YouTube videos and everything else that are, in addition to the MSP, candidates have an opportunity to, you know, find lots of other information about us. And I already heard from somebody who said, a friend of mine who's a pastor heard that Grace is looking for a pastor. So, I mean, word gets out. Jim.
I think we have, in relation to the online thing, we have to give up some intimacy in regard to that. And that's kind of the trade-off. The ability to have this and cover more area. The trade-off there is the impersonal, oh, I should say impersonal. What did I say before? Well, I can't remember you 2 minutes. Less than 2 minutes. Intimacy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's true. I think that you kind of have to put yourself out there as a congregation. Any other questions or comments? Jeannie?
Is there, I was schmoozing out there.
Oh, sure.
In the beginning, but is there a timeline when you want to have a new pastor or deacon or?
Yes, our goal, and one of the first things I said is, you know, trying to get the timeline for a call committee as near as possible, because it always takes longer than we want. But our goal is to have someone in place by fall.
Okay.
Yeah, and then to go along with that, Deacon Jennifer has agreed to stay until fall.
Great.
Yeah. As long as I haven't, Jeff told me I can't be too long-winded, so.
I'm gonna leave pretty quick.
I will give you just a couple updates from the church council. One of them is we are in the process of researching a new security system for the church. And in addition to making sure that the building is secure, we want to have different access to the building for volunteers and then also for other groups that use our building. So we're looking at the possibility of perhaps a keypad for entry so that there aren't keys floating around here, there and everywhere. So that's all part of the new security system. You know, as I don't know, most of you are probably aware, we now keep the doors locked during the week, which works, except that it's very inhospitable to some people that genuinely need to get into the building. So we're trying to find a system that gives us the security we want, but also improves our access. So that's one thing we're working on. The other project, which you've already heard about, is the relocation of the offices. And we are proceeding with that. I think they are picking out paint for the walls. So that process is proceeding. That's it for now. Anything else?
Related or unrelated? I have a question about the memorial committee was proposed kind of having a new sign, electronic sign for passers-by and such out here. Where is that? Is that, are we still considering that or not? That, like I say, it's unrelated to the forum, but.
I can add that to the agenda for the council meeting Tuesday night.
Well, yeah,
One of the budget items, the wants, right, in January was a new sign,
Oh.
essentially. I think that was, like, in the, when we reviewed that, there was a lot of wants based on each little committee. And that was one of,
I think we were feeling some social pressure about that because of the exposure we have here.
yes,
And I noticed the other day driving around, other churches don't have electronic signs, so.
Yeah, I think that there has been discussion about how best to utilize our location.
Yeah.
You know, to draw attention to it. Yeah.
We borrow.
Any other questions?
It's more visible, it's, if it's lit up. And since the exposure at 42 is pretty high,
Yeah.
depending on,
our sign is pretty low to the ground. Probably, I haven't
Yeah.
even passed it today, but like, you probably can't even see it with the snow.
well, if you're a driver, if there's no passenger, I mean, for me, if me personally, I don't notice such things. If I'm
Yeah.
a driver, but a passenger, I'll notice it.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
All right,
20 hours a week.
noted.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions, concerns? Yes, Becca.
Who's playing volleyball?
Oh, my 12-year-old granddaughter. So important achievement. Actually, we already missed 2 matches, so the new one is the one we can.
We've already missed the first
Yeah.
Hi, I'm not even officially a member, so if this is out of step, but I've been coming here for a wee bit. And I think as we think about like a call, the couple comments about the online church, right? That has a real role in young families' lives right now. Like, and so it would be awesome actually to have somebody who has some vision for how to include the virtual attendees more, like how do we track attendance a little bit, so how can we capture giving remotely a little bit better? Because kids, people with young kids, we don't have a ton of them in here, well, like compared to my old church. Because like, how do you get them out of bed? Okay, now they spit up all over me, okay, it's easier for me to sit in my couch with all of my tools there to take care of young kids. So I think it's something of the future, like, that's not going away.
Yeah.
And how do we get community to still feel like I'm part of it? And I think how the cameras are set up does a really good job of making me and my kids feel like we're at church. But it would be neat to see like what, from a pastoral perspective, how can we continue to grow that and capture so that they don't feel like, oh, we haven't been at church the last 4 weeks. I've listened to every single sermon, and so have my kids. So just kind of a different way to think about it, as churches change fundamentally. in the last couple years.
That's really helpful to hear. It's a good reminder, because I think online church is here to stay.
I think so.
So, yeah, definitely, you know, continue to improve it and figure out ways that, that we can do that.
God gave us the ability to do that, so we should use that.
The community too, you know, it brings in the viewers as part of our community
Yeah.
here. And enhance that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
And one more thing is to make it seem like it counts that you're in church,
Yeah.
sitting on your sofa. You know, I think sometimes my attitude even gets to be, oh, we didn't go to church today, but we did. We were watching the entire service. We weren't there, but it counts.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure it's definitely on your heavenly ledger.
You know this, but with that, where are we in the process of filling the communication marketing role? Because that takes a lot. I'm sure getting some feedback when we have someone like this on some of that will help a lot, because I think there's a lot of opportunity we have there. Like, yeah, the cameras are great, but you don't see the words to the hands, you don't see the bulletin, you don't see all sorts of
They
things.
do have the words to them.
Do they now? Okay, well, see, this is good to know. It's been many months, but like, they didn't used to have any of that information. on there.
Right,
So
it
it was
is
just
gotten
on the
better,
camera.
for sure.
So there's a lot of improvements we can make, but so that role is gonna be critical, I
Yeah.
think, in some of those improvements.
I think that, we do, and I should also say, we have hired a custodian, so that was like, job number one that needed to be filled. And, I think that role is at the top of the list now.
Okay.
Part of it is, we have, I don't know how to put this so it's politically correct. We have some older, more mature people on staff right now. How's that? Who have, shared with us that they are thinking retirement. So part of it is deciding how to fill that role now, or do we wait until, some of these changes happen and then fully define the role. So it's a little bit of a wait and see at this point, but
That's fair.
I think everybody is more than ready to have somebody in that role.
Is there an opportunity to create like a summer internship program?
Well, I think we might do
mentoring.
that. That's a good idea. And I think we've also looked at possibly just, going to a temp agency and trying to get somebody in here on a temporary basis. Because in all honesty, Lisa Sampson is spending a lot of her time being the communications person, and that is not what she's supposed to be focusing her time on. So,
And
yeah.
Eric Rasmus.
And Eric, yeah. We'd all be lost without Eric. Yeah. All right. Anything else I can answer for you or try to answer? Good. Good job. All right. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
My back was better today.
Sure.